Hello, this is Lydia from Lydia Bates Creates. Thanks for joining me. I hope you can hear me pretty well. I think my microphone's working. Hey, I wanted to come on and share some information that I found out. So, I'm sure some of you are crafters just like I am. And sometimes when you get yourself, you do your research before you actually launch your projects online. A lot of times, the first thing that you're going to ask yourself, which platform should I use? So I went through that process. I said, well, there's always things like Etsy. There is private websites like Shopify, and there's Big Cartel. If you're selling things, you can always use eBay for crafts. There is a big trend going on right now where they're making the ACEOs, which is very popular. Those are the 2.5 by 3.5 little cards that people are drawing on and bidding them and selling them off an auction or just selling them outright. So depending on what you're actually making, you can use any of these platforms. But one thing I will say is that I noticed certain content creators that make polymer clay. They started out with say Etsy, and they slowly moved off to their own website and got rid of Etsy. I noticed some of the bigger successful crafters has gotten off of Etsy, and I said to myself, why would they do that? Well, I found out a few things. Now, Etsy is very easy to be approved to be a crafter on and sell. It's a great platform because that's been around for a long time, and they do market themselves. But one thing I did notice, I'm on a group chat, or a group on Facebook rather, not a group chat, but a group. And one of the things I started doing before I launch any of my products, I wanted to articulate and compare and contrast, excuse me, different platforms. So the first one was Etsy. Excuse me. So Etsy is a little bit of controversial. One thing I noticed is, not that I'm trying to discredit Etsy, because I'm not trying to do that, but I think that you should be aware that sometimes when you're a new crafter, you won't be seeing any money coming to you if you get sales. Sometimes they hold it. According to what I read, is that some people say they hold your payments for the first 90 days, and then after that, you'll get paid. I think they're trying to gauge your performance on your reliability on shipping and things, and customer satisfaction, which is, of course, it's very important, and I get it. But my concern is some of the vendors that are on there, or the sellers that are on there. I always try to figure out why did certain people get banned, and they don't discuss why they got banned. But the fact that they can ban an account is alarming, because a lot of these people invested a lot of time, money, and energy into their site on Etsy. So I think the logic behind what I'm taking in on my research is that you shouldn't just use one platform. And every platform has pluses and minuses, but I don't really feel confident to launch the whole entire catalog of stuff on one platform such as Etsy. In fact, today I noticed one of the one of the crafters posted that the account was suspended December 31st, 2025, and which is really alarming, because she said there was 30,000, yes, $30,000 that was not paid out to her. And I don't think this crafter was on top of her game, because that money sat there, and business wise, because I used to work as a junior accountant, that money was escheated to the state. It was transferred to the state, and so she didn't get her money. So I think what the lesson is that if she would have had her own platform, she could have avoided all that confusion. So, and when I say your own platform, I'm talking about Shopify or Big Cartel. So I think that was like the biggest red flag for me. The fact that sometimes these people get banned, it's usually for copyright infringement. Of course, even though they may see the same products on that site, you have to be real careful about copyrights. Now, the plan for me is to utilize Etsy for certain things, but not for everything. So my now I didn't do all the research yet. I have to watch a video on Big Cartel. Now, Big Cartel is let me just finish my statement on Etsy real quick before I go to Big Cartel. So Etsy does take 25% off your sales. So that's nothing you can't avoid that. It's 25%. So you have to add 25% into your price so that you can get the profit that you're looking for. So I do encourage people to visit Facebook and join those groups. There's a lot of them out there. I think I'm on a few. Not to overwhelm myself, but just remember that they're taking 25% off the top, and you may not get paid right away. So that's one reason why I made sure I had all the supplies that I needed initially, so that way when I start packaging and sending things off, I'm not going to be struggling financially, because I do work. I have a part-time job that I work at, so there's no struggle here. Also on Etsy, you need to be aware of the terms and conditions, which you have to sign, and it's a long list of stuff. The one thing I do remember that's important to share is that I'm losing my train of thought real quick. But anyway, so on Etsy, the advertisement. So sometimes there is a link that if you start to sell something, the question is, do you want to advertise? They will take a percentage out of your base amount of what your profit is if you advertise. Now, I personally am not going to be advertising, because one seller happened to say that she expected a profit of like $90 and it was whittled down to like $30 some. That's a big difference. So you might want to consider, it depends on it depends on a lot of factors. One of the things is, how much does it cost for you to make it? What is the selling price versus what the cost price is? You have to look at all those features, but just be aware that there is a feature where you can turn off the advertisements, so that way you're not going to be chopped down in your profit margin. So keep that in mind. One tip that I did get from someone, they said when they sell on Etsy, when they send their packages to their customers, they will be sure to include all the content or contact information on their other site. That's how they pull customers to the other site. Some of the sellers also will tell their community, if they're on YouTube or Instagram, they'll say, hey, I'm no longer on Etsy, I'm on this site. So I think it's a good idea, if you're considering selling on Etsy or any platform, it doesn't matter. You can be selling on Vinted or any eBay or whatever it is. They can still ban you, and it depends on a lot of factors, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. One of the persons that I was reading about on Facebook, she mentioned that they were banned on eBay, and I think I know why. So the discussions go on, and I read through them. So what I think happened was, she was selling coins, and I think her husband was selling something similar, and those are high-risk items, and I think they froze the accounts and banned them. So you have to be very aware of what can and can't happen on some of these platforms. Now that won't apply to me, because I don't make coins, or sell coins rather, but just be aware of that. Now, this other platform that I am questioning is Vinted. Now, I love Vinted. Vinted has an app which is easy to use. I buy most of my craft supplies from them, but there is a list, and I copied the list. It's on my phone, but there is a long list of what you cannot sell in Vinted. Vinted was actually based out of the UK originally, and then they started bringing it over to the United States recently. I'm not sure how long they've been available to people, but it is a nice app, because most of the stuff is very inexpensive. People consider Vinted as the flea market app, because everything's pretty much lower price, even though there's people that sell things higher price. But one thing I did notice, simple little things, like say if they resell clothing all the time, shoes and clothing, okay, that's a no-brainer. However, certain clothing is banned. One thing is called scrubs. Hospital scrubs, you cannot resell those things. So you have to kind of do your due diligence and homework before you start on these apps, any of these apps. You have to know a little bit about what the pros and cons are so you can get an idea of how to go about what you're going to sell. So, in conclusion, I am going to do a little bit more research on Big Cartel, but I think that's what I'm going to be using. Shopify, I am very familiar with Shopify because the company I work for uses Shopify. I'm going to do a little bit more research on Shopify, just a little bit more, because I think it's not as user friendly as, say, Etsy. Etsy's nice only because I like the fact that on Etsy you can do international shipping with international customers. That's always a good win-win. On the other sites, which is like, for example, Shopify, one of the ladies mentioned that she had to figure out how to do international shipping. Now, that's a whole discussion. I don't have all the answers, but I'm just letting you know that you should be, do your homework before you jump and put all your eggs in one basket. Actually, I don't recommend never put your eggs in one basket, because you must make sure that your financial end is covered, because nobody wants to be banned or have an account frozen. So just be aware of those things. And in fact, you can do what I did. I actually enrolled into Etsy. You got to pay a $10 fee per month. If you don't pay the fee, they'll lock your account until it's paid, which is no problem. But you can, I actually set it up because I wasn't sure the time frame, and I thought, well, let's just get it set up. But now we're at the limit. I think this is month 3 that I haven't put anything on Etsy, so we will be going to do that. But one thing I will do, if there's any products that are similar to somebody else's, I'm going to probably put that on Big Cartel or Shopify, whichever I choose. I haven't made a decision yet. So I will be doing the things that I don't see, or some, even if I do see it, I will still show it there, because I'm going to be making resin paintings with candy, which is so exciting. I've actually done it years ago. When I did a craft show, people were completely shocked. So I said, you know what? And I know this is a small town that I live in, but I see the same thing on there, but it's not exactly the same of how I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to be doing that probably coming up very soon. I just have to get a few things worked out with some of the design. But I do have 2 pieces that I bought 2 frames that I have that I'm going to make some stuff with, which is, I love candy and I think this is a great thing, but the sales are pretty high with some of the other people that make it. So I'm going to do a smaller version at a more affordable price. I just have to make sure I know where to get the supplies going forward. But yeah, so just remember, before you make any decisions, do some research. Look at the comments and read it and try to ask questions. Because a lot of people are jumping into these sites without understanding how these platforms works. And they find out after the fact, and they spent time loading up all these products, and then they get banned and wonder why. And I'll be honest with you, one of the reasons why I think a private website is better, such as Shopify or Big Cartel, is because you don't get that gossip type of stuff going on. Here's what I mean by that. So one person commented that there's certain sellers trying to report other sellers constantly. Why? I don't know. Whose business is it if somebody's selling something? Who cares? But people are very petty, so just be aware of that. Somebody said that it was a digital product, and people have reported that certain digital products were stolen on Etsy and they're selling it. This is ridiculous. But if you have a private website, all that nonsense is off the table, because I don't like nonsense. It's just too much. So you just have to be aware of some of the things that if you don't believe me, go and look it up yourself. Join a group and read all those comments, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So this is current information. These comments that I'm talking about right now, I've been reading in the last week or so. So I've been trying to, a little bit longer than that, because I've been looking and trying to figure out what the issues were, because that's how my mind is. I'm trying to figure out what the plan is, what's the end game, or what's the end result that I want. But I want to find out what are the other problems along the way that I'm not aware of. So it is very helpful to do yourself a favor and do a little research and figure out what the best options are for you based on what you're selling, whether it's digital artwork or digital anything, or if it's physical products Some people sell mail clubs or cookie clubs. There's a whole lot of stuff that they sell. So there's all kinds of options, but you're going to have to figure out for yourself what's the best option. And I'm pretty much positive that I will be using probably at least 4 different platforms based on what I'm selling. And I'll give you an example. So we'll be using eBay for the ACEOs, larger paintings, and also for my resale company. Now, I don't call it a resale company. I have so many clothes that is just that I can't wear, or clothes that I won't wear or haven't worn that were new and never used. So I am going to be selling mostly those things probably on eBay. However, one tip is that Vinted is a good place to sell your used clothing, kids clothing, baby clothes. But do not put all these clothes listed one after the other, new with tags. That will get you flagged. Now, they probably use, from what I was reading, they use AI for some of their administrative work, which is ridiculous, but that's what they do. And when people post on Vinted, when they post everything new with tags, that will flag the account. So you want to put a little bit on that are new with tags, and just just do something, whatever you think you have to do. But I know for me, I do have a lot of clothes that I haven't worn, and I won't probably fit it probably for a long time because I gained some weight. So I don't know. Well, I will say this though real quick, that there's other platforms like Mercari and Poshmark to sell clothing on. I actually had some things on Mercari, but people were trying to lowball me, and I'm not taking that. So I took everything off the site, and I think I'm going to upload it to possibly eBay. I'm not really sure, because I do have, I don't know, I have a lot of clothing that I don't wear anymore. And some is used clothing that was given to me, but I'm going to probably start listing that stuff and just to get rid of it. Because in all honesty, there's only so many jackets I can wear. I have like these women's blazers, and they're okay. They're not really dated, but they sort of have a little bit of a vintage look to them, and I'm not really a big fan of that. I could change my mind. I'm going to try everything on before I decide to sell it, because clothing's expensive, and I have some very expensive dresses. One dress is like $500, and I said, Michelle, I got it for a lot cheaper, but I can't fit it. I bought it, I didn't even try it on right away. I was so loving the dress. So that will go up on one of those platforms just to get rid of it. But I do have some old shoes that I got. One of my coworkers was giving me all these old clothes, and I thought, well, let me just sell it. I gave some to a coworker, and I said, this just get rid of this stuff. So I'm going to be using Vinted for that, but mostly I'm going to use eBay, Vinted, and then I'll be going into using Etsy for the crafts, and then I'll decide on the other website, which is Big Cartel or Shopify, and I'll be utilizing Poshmark at some point, or Mercari again. But those choices are out there, so just be aware of it, and don't be afraid to spread your wings and use more than one site, because I think in the long run you'll be glad you did. Well, that is all for now. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe to my new channel, Lydia Bates Creates. Thank you for watching, and have a good evening.